Queens, New York, 1982. Angelo Ruggiero sits in his house on Cedarhurst Avenue talking on the phone. He's 43 years old, overweight, loud, laughing while discussing heroin shipments. His voice carries through the walls. The FBI agents listening in their surveillance van parked 3 houses down hear every word. They're recording. They've been recording for months. Ruggiero doesn't care, because Ruggiero doesn't think. He just talks. They call him Quack Quack. The nickname comes from his voice, his constant chatter, the way he never stops making noise like a duck that can't help itself. Made man in the Gambino crime family, one of New York's 5 families controlling construction, unions, gambling, loan sharking. Ruggiero runs heroin operations, bringing in hundreds of thousands monthly. He's close to John Gotti, his childhood friend from the streets of East New York. They grew up together, committed crimes together, got made together in 1977. Brotherhood sealed in blood and loyalty. But Ruggiero has a problem. He can't shut up. The FBI has planted bugs in his house. They have court authorization based on preliminary surveillance, suggesting organized crime activity. Standard procedure. They expect to catch conversations about gambling or loan sharking. Instead, they get a master class in how the Gambino family operates. Ruggiero talks about everything: drug deals, murder contracts, family politics, his hatred for boss Paul Castellano. Every phone call, every meeting in his living room, every rant about people who disrespect him, all recorded. Sammy the Bull Gravano, another Gambino soldier, will later say this about Ruggiero. He had a lot of balls, not too much in the brains department. The assessment is accurate. Ruggiero has courage, loyalty, capacity for violence. What he lacks is judgment, restraint, the basic criminal survival instinct to stay silent. In organized crime, talking gets you killed. Ruggiero talks constantly. The heroin trade becomes his primary operation by 1980. Paul Castellano, who became Gambino boss in 1976 after Carlo Gambino's death, has issued clear orders: no drugs. The policy isn't moral. It's strategic. Federal sentences for narcotics trafficking run 20 to life. 1 arrest, 1 cooperating witness. Entire crews go to prison for decades. Castellano wants the family focused on traditional rackets: construction, unions, gambling. Lower risk, sustainable profit. He makes this policy explicit. Everyone knows. Ruggiero ignores it. He and Gotti run heroin through a crew base in Queens. They move product from Sicilian suppliers through street dealers, generating profits estimated at $2 million annually by 1982. The money is extraordinary. The risk is catastrophic. But Ruggiero sees only dollars, not consequences. He's making money. He's got power. He's operating under protection from Aniello Dellacroce, the Gambino underboss and Ruggiero's uncle by marriage. Dellacroce represents old-school mob culture. Born in 1914, rose through the ranks in the 1940s and 50s, known for violence and loyalty to traditional structures. When Carlo Gambino died and Paul Castellano took over, Dellacroce accepted the decision despite having stronger claim to leadership. He runs the family's Manhattan operations, while Castellano handles Brooklyn and Staten Island. The arrangement works because Dellacroce enforces discipline in his crew. His protection of Ruggiero creates tension. Castellano knows about the heroin operation. He knows Ruggiero is violating direct orders. But Ruggiero is Dellacroce's nephew. Killing him means conflict with the underboss. Castellano tolerates the situation while seething about the disrespect. May 1982. One of Ruggiero's dealers, a low-level associate named John Carneglia's brother, gets arrested. Police find heroin. During interrogation, they mention Ruggiero's name. The dealer doesn't talk, but the connection is established. Federal agents begin building a case. They go to court, obtain wiretap authorization for Ruggiero's home and phone. They plant bugs in June 1982. What they capture exceeds expectations. Ruggiero talks for hours daily. He discusses drug shipments, We got 10 keys coming in Tuesday. He names suppliers. The zips are reliable. We're doing steady business. He complains about Castellano. That guy up in Mansion, he don't know nothing about making real money. He discusses murders. We got to handle this thing. Make it disappear, make it clean. The zips he mentions. Sicilian mobsters operating in New York, connected to Gambino family through heroin trade. The Mansion reference. Castellano lives in a Staten Island estate valued at $3.5 million, a visible display of wealth that offends street-level gangsters like Ruggiero, who see him as distant, disconnected. Every complaint, every operational detail, every name. The FBI records it all. The tapes accumulate. Hundreds of hours. The FBI learns the internal structure of Gambino operations. They identify players. They track money flows. They map the organization's hierarchy from street dealers to capos to administration. Ruggiero provides a roadmap without knowing it. He thinks his house is safe. He thinks his phone is secure. He thinks nobody's listening. He's wrong on every count. By October 1982, federal agents have enough evidence to expand surveillance. They use information from Ruggiero's tapes to justify bugs in other Gambino associate homes. If Ruggiero mentions meeting someone at their house, the FBI targets that house. If he names a partner in a loan sharking operation, they surveil that person. The investigation metastasizes. One talking mouth infects the entire body. Ruggiero's voice appears on multiple surveillance tapes recorded at different locations. He visits other mobsters constantly. He can't stay home. He needs to rant, to complain, to discuss business. Other Gambino members will later describe his habits. One associate states, "Dial any 7 numbers and there's a 50-50 chance Angelo will answer phone." He's everywhere, talking to everyone, sharing operational details that should stay buried. The FBI loves Angelo Ruggiero. He's their greatest unwitting informant. He provides more intelligence than cooperating witnesses because he doesn't know he's being recorded. No handler managing his information. No limits on what he'll discuss. Just pure, unfiltered criminal conversation flowing into federal recording devices daily. January 1983. Federal agents execute search warrants. They raid multiple Gambino locations simultaneously. They arrest associates involved in heroin trafficking. They seize drugs, money, records. The operation targets the Ruggiero crew specifically. At Ruggiero's house, agents present a warrant. He's not home. They search anyway. They find cash, weapons, documentation of illegal gambling operations. They leave the bugs in place. The surveillance continues. Ruggiero gets arrested within days. The charges: heroin trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy. The evidence: his own voice on federal tapes discussing drug deals in explicit detail. He makes bail. He goes home. He gets back on the phone. He starts complaining about the arrests, about informants, about Castellano. The FBI keeps recording. The tapes become a problem within the Gambino family. Mob rules require anyone caught on surveillance talking about family business to face consequences. At minimum, they lose their position. Often they die. The tapes represent evidence that can destroy multiple crews. Defense attorneys will eventually get access during discovery. That means Gambino members will hear what Ruggiero said about them, the complaints, the criticisms, the operational details he shared. That exposure is lethal. Castellano demands the tapes. Family protocol states that evidence affecting the organization belongs to the boss. He needs to assess damage, determine who's compromised, decide consequences. He orders Ruggiero to turn over copies of the surveillance recordings. Ruggiero refuses. He claims attorney-client privilege protects the tapes from family scrutiny. He's technically correct legally, but completely wrong strategically. Refusing the boss's direct order is death sentence behavior. Aniello Dellacroce intervenes. He tells Castellano that Ruggiero is his nephew, that family loyalty required protecting him, that killing him would fracture the organization. Dellacroce's position as underboss gives him authority to push back. Castellano backs down. He doesn't drop the issue. He tables it. The tension festers. Everyone knows Ruggiero violated policy, endangered the family, and refuses accountability. Everyone knows Dellacroce's protection is the only thing keeping him alive. John Gotti faces pressure too. He's Ruggiero's closest friend, his partner in the heroin operation, his defender within the organization. The tapes mention Gotti. The heroin profits enriched both of them. Castellano knows this. But Gotti is smart in ways Ruggiero isn't. He stays quiet. He distances himself from the drug operation without abandoning his friend publicly. He plays the game. The federal case develops through 1983 and 1984. Prosecutors prepare multiple indictments based on surveillance evidence. They target Ruggiero and his crew for heroin trafficking. They target other Gambino members for racketeering, loan sharking, extortion. The tapes provide foundation for everything. Ruggiero's voice connects the dots. Trial preparations reveal the scope of damage. Defense attorneys receive discovery materials, including tape transcripts. Gambino members read what Ruggiero said. The complaints about Castellano. That fucking guy sits up in his mansion. Don't know nothing about the street. The operational details. We're moving 10 keys a week through the zips, making a fortune. The insults about other members. These guys are idiots, don't know how to make money. The organization fractures. Castellano wants Ruggiero dead. Dellacroce protects him. The captains divide along loyalty lines. Some support Castellano's authority. Others back Dellacroce's traditional values about protecting family. The dispute isn't just about Ruggiero. It's about power succession, competing visions for how the family operates. December 2nd, 1985. Aniello Dellacroce dies. Cancer takes him at age 71. He's been sick for months, in and out of the hospital, increasingly unable to perform underboss duties. His death removes Ruggiero's protection. Castellano no longer has political reason to tolerate the talking mouth who endanger the entire organization. The execution clock starts ticking. But Castellano doesn't get the chance. He has his own problems. Federal prosecutors indicted him in February 1985 on racketeering charges related to construction industry extortion. He posted $2 million bail, but faces trial that could send him to prison for life. More immediately, he faces internal rebellion. John Gotti has been planning. With Dellacroce dying, with Castellano distracted by federal prosecution, with family members angry about the no-drugs policy cutting into profits, the opportunity emerges. Gotti assembles a crew. Not Ruggiero. He's too hot, too watched by federal surveillance. But others loyal to Gotti, willing to commit murder to advance the organization under new leadership. December 16th, 1985. Manhattan, outside Sparks Steakhouse on East 46th Street. Paul Castellano arrives at 1,745 hours for a meeting. His driver pulls the Lincoln to the curb. Castellano steps out. Gunmen approach from both sides. For shooters, wearing long coats and fur hats in December cold. They open fire at close range. Castellano drops. His driver, Thomas Bellotti, tries to react. They kill him too. 6 bullets each. Both men dead on the sidewalk. The shooters walk away calmly. They disappear into evening rush hour crowds. No panic. No running. Professional execution. John Gotti watches from a car parked down the block. He confirms the kills, then drives away. Angelo Ruggiero waits in a backup car one street over, part of the secondary team in case the primary shooters need support. They don't. The hit goes perfectly. Within minutes, both bodies are surrounded by police, witnesses, news cameras. By 1800 hours, the murder dominates television news. By next day, every newspaper in America runs a story. Mob boss executed in Manhattan. Gambino family leadership in chaos. Gotti moves immediately. He calls a meeting of Gambino captains. He presents the assassination as necessary response to Castellano's mismanagement, his distance from the street, his willingness to sacrifice earners like Ruggiero to protect his own position. The pitch works. The captains recognize reality. Gotti has the guns, the crew, the momentum. They accept him as the new boss. On December 18, 1985, 2 days after the Spark Steakhouse murders, John Gotti becomes official leader of the Gambino crime family. Angelo Ruggiero stays at Gotti's side. He survives the Castellano era. He avoids execution for the tape disaster. He continues operating. Gotti makes him a capo, gives him increased responsibility. Ruggiero takes over planning contract killings, among other duties. The promotion seems like reward for loyalty, for surviving federal pressure, for being Gotti's oldest friend. It's actually a mistake. Ruggiero isn't built for management. He's built for muscle work, for intimidation, for the direct violence that requires no subtlety. Strategic planning requires thought, discipline, restraint. Ruggiero has none of those qualities. He operates on emotion, anger, ego, immediate gratification. The deficiencies show quickly. Ruggiero hears that Anthony Gaspite Casso, a soldier in the Lucchese crime family, called him an idiot. Casso is legendary for violence. Hundreds of murders attributed to him over his career. He's methodical, patient, lethal. Call him out as suicide. Ruggiero doesn't care. Someone disrespected him. Someone needs to die. He sends a hitman. Doesn't matter that Casso is Lucchese, not Gambino. Doesn't matter that murdering a made man from another family without commission approval breaks every rule. Doesn't matter that Casso is exponentially more dangerous than typical targets. Ruggiero wants revenge for an insult. He orders the hit. Casso hears about it. His intelligence network inside multiple families keeps him informed of threats. He identifies the hitman Ruggiero sent. He abducts the would-be killer before the attempt happens. Then he tortures him for hours. The hitman talks, gives up Ruggiero's name, describes a plan, begs for mercy. Casso kills him anyway. The body surfaces later as a message. Don't fuck with Anthony Casso. The incident creates tension between Gambino and Lucchese families. Gotti has to smooth it over, assure Lucchese leadership that Ruggiero acted without authorization, that the problem won't repeat. Casso and Ruggiero develop a mutual hatred that lasts for years. They never try to kill each other again directly, but the rivalry simmers. Both men understand the other wants them dead. It's a slow-burning fuse waiting for spark. Other Gambino members complain to Gotti about Ruggiero's management. He's running rackets into the ground. He makes poor decisions about personnel. He alienates partners. He starts conflicts that create problems rather than profit. The complaints pile up. Gotti hears them. He does nothing. The friendship protects Ruggiero despite incompetence. Gotti and Ruggiero go back decades. They learned crime together. They got made together. They survived together. That history means something to Gotti. He won't replace his friend even when the friend hurts the organization. It's loyalty elevated above pragmatism. In organized crime, that's dangerous. The FBI surveillance network expands throughout the late 1980s. The Ruggiero tapes gave them foundation to bug numerous Gambino locations. They have listening devices in social clubs, in homes, in cars. They hear meetings. They record conversations. They accumulate thousands of hours of evidence. Ruggiero's voice remains constant throughout. He appears on tapes recorded at other people's houses because he visits constantly. He discusses ongoing criminal operations. He complains about Gotti behind his back, once calling him a sick son of a bitch in a moment of anger. The microphones catch everything. Federal prosecutors prepare RICO cases against the Gambino family leadership. Racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations act allows them to prosecute entire criminal enterprises rather than individual crimes. The evidence from surveillance tapes provides a foundation. They indict Gotti in 1987. The charges include murder, racketeering, loan sharking, gambling, The evidence includes transcript of conversations where Gambino members discuss criminal operations in explicit detail. Many of those conversations feature Angelo Ruggiero's voice. The first trial in 1987 ends in acquittal. Jury tampering allegations surface later. One juror received $60,000 to vote not guilty and convince others. The mistrial buys time but doesn't eliminate the threat. Prosecutors prepare a second case. The surveillance continues. The evidence accumulates. Federal prosecutors indict Ruggiero specifically on heroin trafficking charges based on the tapes from his house in 1982 to 1983. 6 years have passed since the original surveillance. The investigation has moved through courts slowly, delayed by legal challenges, by discovery disputes, by defense motions. Now it reaches trial phase. Ruggiero faces 20 to life if convicted. The trial process reveals more problems. The transcripts become public. Gambino members read what Ruggiero said about them years earlier. The complaints, the criticisms, the operational details. The damage to his reputation becomes irreparable. He's confirmed as a talking mouth who endangered everyone. The organization's patience exhausts itself. Gotti reportedly begins planning to have Ruggiero killed. The decision is strategic, not emotional. Ruggiero's continued existence threatens the family. His trials expose operations. His inability to stay quiet creates ongoing liability. Better to eliminate him. Make it look like natural causes or accident. Remove the problem permanently. The planning happens quietly. Ruggiero doesn't know. Or maybe he knows and pretends otherwise. Hard to say. He keeps talking. Angelo Ruggiero develops lung cancer. Terminal diagnosis. Months to live, maybe a year. The disease moves fast. He deteriorates rapidly. The federal trial continues while he's dying. Prosecutors pursue conviction, even as cancer does what mob-hit squads couldn't. Ruggiero enters hospitals for treatment. He loses weight. His voice, his defining characteristic, weakens. The talking finally stops, not from discipline but from cancer. December 5th, 1989. Angelo Ruggiero dies. Age 49. Lung cancer. He dies before federal trial concludes. He dies before serving any significant prison time for the heroin operation that destroyed family security. He dies still a made man in the Gambino family, despite years of complaints, despite damage from his tapes, despite plans to kill him. The disease finishes what the organization couldn't. John Gotti refuses to visit Ruggiero on his deathbed. Their friendship, decades long, ends in cold distance. Gotti doesn't attend the funeral. He doesn't send representatives. The message is clear. Ruggiero stopped being useful, stopped being protected, became liability the family tolerated only because cancer killed him before they had to. That's the accounting. That's the final judgment. But Ruggiero's tapes live beyond him. Federal prosecutors continue using evidence from his recorded conversations in cases against other Gambino members. The surveillance network built from information on his tapes continues operating. In 1990, FBI bugs in Gotti's headquarters, the Rave Night Social Club in Little Italy, capture conversations where Gotti discusses murders, including the Castellano hit. The recordings include Gotti complaining about family members, discussing criminal operations, revealing details that become evidence. December 11, 1990. FBI arrests John Gotti on murder and racketeering charges. The evidence includes surveillance tapes from the rave night, testimony from cooperating witnesses, and historical evidence connecting back to the original Ruggiero surveillance. Sammy the Bull Gravano, Gotti's underboss, flips and becomes government witness. He testifies about 19 murders, about family operations, about Gotti's role as boss. The case is overwhelming. April 2nd, 1992. Jury convicts John Gotti on all counts. Murder, racketeering, conspiracy. The judge sentences him to life in prison without parole. Gotti is 51 years old. He'll never leave prison. He'll die there 10 years later, June 10, 2002, at age 61. Throat cancer, the same disease that killed his talking friend. The Gambino family continues operating but never recovers its power. Federal prosecutions dismantle leadership. Cooperating witnesses expose operations. The surveillance state that Angelo Ruggiero helped create through his inability to shut up continues monitoring organized crime. By the 2000s, the Gambino family operates as shadow of its 1980 strength. Still exists, still commits crimes. But the golden age is over. The mathematics are clear. Angelo Ruggiero was recorded thousands of hours discussing criminal operations. His conversations appeared on surveillance tapes at his house, at other members' houses, in cars, at social clubs. The FBI used that evidence to justify additional surveillance, to build RICO cases, to prosecute multiple generations of Gambino leadership. His voice provided the foundation for the largest organized crime investigation in FBI history. You can track the destruction. 1982, FBI begins surveilling Ruggiero. 1985, Paul Castellano murdered partly because his conflict with Ruggiero's crew destabilized the family. 1989, Ruggiero dies, but his tapes continue providing evidence. 1990, Gotti arrested. 1992, Gotti convicted. The timeline runs straight from Ruggiero's mouth to federal prison. Sammy Gravano's assessment was correct. He had a lot of balls, not too much in the brains department. Ruggiero possessed courage, loyalty, capacity for violence. He lacked judgment, discretion, the basic survival instinct that keeps criminals alive. In an organization built on omerta, the code of silence that protects members from prosecution, Angelo Ruggiero couldn't stop talking. The irony compounds. He was called Quack Quack. The nickname was joke, insult, observation. It was also prophecy. He quacked constantly. The FBI recorded every sound. Those recordings destroyed the family he loved, the organization he served, the friend he died protecting. His loyalty was absolute. His discretion was non-existent. The combination killed him and everyone around him. History remembers John Gotti as the last media-savvy mob boss, the dapper Don, the Teflon Don before the conviction stuck. He gave interviews. He dressed in expensive suits. He courted publicity. After his conviction and death, organized crime returned to shadows. The era of celebrity gangsters ended, but that ending started with Angelo Ruggiero's tapes. The FBI didn't catch Gotti through public relations. They caught him through surveillance networks built on foundations laid by his talking friend. Angelo Ruggiero never became famous. No movies about him. No books focused solely on his story. He exists in histories as supporting character, as Gotti's loyal sidekick, as the guy whose tapes provided evidence. That obscurity is fitting. He wasn't the star. He was the mouth, the microphone, the unwitting informant whose compulsive talking destroyed everything he claimed to protect. He died at 49, lung cancer silencing him where discipline couldn't. John Gotti died at 61, throat cancer taking his voice too. Both men killed by diseases targeting speech. The universe has a sense of humor. Two men who couldn't stop talking, who built and destroyed a criminal empire through words, ended silent. The FBI tapes remain. The evidence persists. The recordings that Angelo Ruggiero created by being himself continue serving federal prosecutors decades later. The lesson is simple but absolute. In organized crime, silence is survival. Talk is death. Angelo Ruggiero talked constantly for decades. He died relatively young. His best friend died in prison. The organization collapsed. The family fragmented. Federal law enforcement won. All because one man couldn't shut his mouth. That's the accounting. That's the story. A voice that echoed through FBI surveillance vans, through courtrooms, through federal prisons, through history. Angelo Ruggiero, the talking mouth that destroyed the Gambinos. Quack Quack,